Good morning. Welcome to Change Movements. I'm happy to have you here. I am currently sitting here in Austria in a very nice conference room with a cozy chair, and it's raining cats and dogs outside. Hope weather is fine in October. However, I'm happy to have you here to my talk about change movements. So how to start movements that make the world change. So change movements, we all know the one movement that Greta is now running. So what if change would not be like a process that we start and we try to deliver? What it would be like a state of mind? What would it be if change happens because there is a movement? And I'm especially thinking about global change regarding global warming or stuff like that, which is important, don't get me wrong. I'm more focused on how to bring an organization to change, how to bring one part of the organization to do something different than it did before. And why not start a movement instead? And what would happen if your employees would want to change? Not that you tell them what to do, but they are eager to do something different. How would the world look like? I'd like to focus on these questions the next couple of minutes and try to figure out what kind of things you could do and where you could do something different to start movements. First of all, who am I? Michael Liehmann, I am a change consultant. This is what I do for a living, self-employed, different companies working together. I support change, transformation in organizations, be it very small ones or be it really, really large and international ones. I have more than 15 years of specific change experience. International. I used to stay in the UK and do that for a living. And by the way, I'm a chaos pilot partner, so chaos is something that I'm used to. For a few steps in regards to where I'm coming from, I studied computer science, and then I went to the Austrian Federal Chancellery to change the way the Austria runs and bring it more from a very traditional way to a e-government stuff way. And I was focusing very much on technical side and stuff like that. I noticed quite quick that because there is something here that works fine, that doesn't mean that people use it. People are happy about that. So I then switched my kind of focus from the technical or organizational side to how could I bring people to use the stuff, or how could I bring people to approach change? And it's such a complex and interesting field that it just grabbed me, and I stayed there for the last couple of years. Okay, so don't get me wrong, we need to focus on the track. So how does change happen now, in my view? Then you have a well-structured way. We all probably know the change curves and stuff like that, and we need to have a clear process to guide us through the change and to support the stakeholders in the appropriate way to look what the stakeholders' concerns or fears are and focus more on hopes with the change. And quite often all the change is very focused on business outcome. So we need to change because we have a new target operating model and our people should approach it in a very nice way, or our revenue is falling and we need to do something different. Therefore, we do need to change. So that's all. Quite often it's a very short-term approach. So we have a 6-month time where everything happens and that's it. Then afterwards, all the people should be look at this thing in a different way. That's usually my area of change, and you probably get the idea. It's very traditional, it's very focused. So that people in an organization understand what's happening here. And they have a little bit of a project plan, which gives you a sense of credibility and a sense of control if you have a plan. We all know how plans work. And it's working, yeah, so and so. In some organizations it works okay. In other organizations, people are quite used to do that, and people do know, oh, there is a new change project in town. We need to talk about stakeholders and stuff. So that knowledge is around for a couple of years, and it's clear that it works in a way. I often came across in my couple of projects that it's far more rewarding for the organization if the energy comes from within the organization. If it's not me or some other consultants come in and say, yeah, here is the power to change and we need to do that. If it's from inside, then the people want to change. And I noticed in my late change projects that when you put the power to the people, then they want to do something different. Usually they are quite, well, all people are there for a specific reason, and they are intelligent in what they are doing. So they know how to change the things, because then it runs better for them or for the company. So if you put the power to the people, then things change. You're probably not sure in which direction. And you definitely have not such a thing like a clear project plan, but it's a movement. That's not a plan. And the steering happens also from within. And so structure and planning is kind of a different concept here. So movements and change projects are an approach towards change, but from different perspectives, in my thing. So now, how to start such movements, how to get going, to put power to the people, how to do that. Yeah, so what I did is, in the next slides, I have put out 3 examples from my experiences, from my own experience, where parts or the whole example focuses on the movement part. And not about the structure plan and stuff like that. And the idea behind this is first to give you inspiration on what you could do to do that in your own organization, or even ideas on how you could approach that in a different way. Or even come up with some kind of, I don't want to do that whatsoever, which is totally fun. Before I start into these kind of examples, a word for myself. I have a 50-50 percentage of my work. Usually I do this traditional, very process-oriented stuff, and it works in effect. But when you have the courage, or when you trust in your consultant or myself, then, and then you start on a different way, it's much more fun to do that. It feels much livelier and much more energetic than just doing the traditional stuff. Ideally, you could combine those two topics, but that is just a lot of work. So without further ado, first example. The first example is a large traditional organization from Austria. It's one of the largest here. And the headline is Movement Makers. So the situation was that the organization is a very, very steep hierarchy. The decision making is very slow, and you have to ask your boss and then the boss, and in the end probably also the very own managing director. There is little transparency how decisions work. Usually lots of politics things, and you receive very little information. So it's a very, very steep and very secretive political organization. They do make a lot of money. However, so business runs fine. I was approached with the task of designing a leadership development to energize the organization. So that is a very, very nice approach. You could work with your leadership team and say, do that and your people will be motivated, do this and your people will not be motivated. So, and probably have another aspect of leadership development is all that your leaders speak the same language and stuff like that. So that's a very sensible approach. But in my point of view, that just rips the top half or top quarter of an organization out, and the rest is just there to look. So it's not just, they're not involved. So what I suggested was that we do this kind of leadership development and work out with 450 leaders and work with them and have cool and energetic sessions where they learn to motivate and stuff like that, which is fine and works. But also try to find movement makers inside of the organization to start a movement. So we started to look out for people who are, first, no leaders. Second, well connected within the organization. Third is eager to do something different. So that proved to be kind of interesting approach, because people immediately wanted to take part in this kind of audits and new stuff. Haven't had that before. Yeah, put my hand up. So we found the right people at the beginning, and we found 15 people. 15 people. So with these 15 people, they came together, and I think I have a few pictures. Yeah. Came together in a very large gallery, cool location. And we talked about the organization, we talked about passion and leadership, and then we discussed about what could we do to bring energy inside of the organization. And I have lots of ideas, and then we boiled it all down together to 3 very good ideas. And the task then was for these 15 people to go out inside the organization in the next month and to try out these kind of three let's say, exercises within the organization, and do stuff so that you energize the organization from within. So, and that's what they did, and they went out, and at the same time, we when I say we, I have a group of people supporting me, and we work together. We did the leadership development. So, and after 1 month, they came back, there's 15 people, and at the end, they brought 15 people who they infected with kind of energy. They brought 15 people more, so we had 30 people. 30 people discussing how to bring energy inside the company, how to bring in their own passion and what the purpose is. And at the end, we had, again, 3 new ideas on how to bring energy inside the organization. So 30 people went out, 1 month time to do that, delivering the leadership development. So, and after effect, we had 60 people, we had 100 people, we had 200 people, and then we had 400 people and 450 leaders. So after 6 iterations, we had 400 people from the bottom, movement makers, no leaders, well-connected people, and doing something different, who trying to put energy inside of the organization. And we have leaders who are now eager to motivate, and they know how to do that, and they're ready. And then we brought them all together in a very, very large area to figure out, to get to know each other and to start the big movement in the next steps. So, in fact, as a result, we have not the meeting itself, which was nice, but we have an organization that has energy and the idea of how to do something different in the core now. We have, let's say, a cookbook on how to bring energy in organizations that works especially for this organization. And we have people bringing out their passion inside of the organization with others where they connected. That was a 1-year project a lot of movement and lots of fun and lots of different ideas. And what I did, I just opened up the doors for them, and they filled it with ideas and with movement. So that was a large Austrian organization. Next one is an international organization, kind of innovative, and it's global. So it's a really bloody hell big organization. The situation was many different change initiatives throughout the whole company. So basically, they do not have a change program, they change constantly. So probably you know how this works. Progress in these kind of change initiatives is limited. And overall, the fear of change was dramatically, because people were clinging to their kind of world and hoping that nothing changes, because if I can't stay here, then where will I be in the next week? And so this whole thing just crumbles down. So it was lots of fear in this kind of organization. I was approached by HR director and with the idea, bring us ideas, how could we empower our employees, and how could we get rid of this fear? How could we bring in like a fun approach to change? So like to do something different is not kind of things where things go wrong. Just have fun with it. And because we need to have change all the time. And if we have fear attached to change, then it's a very difficult and unfortunate culture. So that was the goal. The challenge was manifold, lots of challenges, very international, 24 hours all the time, cost sensitive, which proved to be very tricky. And similar, we couldn't have time with the management team a lot. So it's very limited time with the management team, which is kind of tricky because you need them on your side all the time. So what again we did was we came up with a kind of a initiative, a global company-wide initiative to empower the people, which was called Generation 1. The Generation 1 is a kind of a movement where we have people across the globe that is not focused on age, is focused on energy and focused on passion and focused on doing something different. That was the generation. The generation that was not focused on huge youth or age related. We brought people together throughout the globe in small groups, so 5 to 6 people, and to work on how could we innovate, how could we change our way of working. Then we had, let's say, lots of meetings, lots of Zoom meetings and global meetings where people fight for their ideas and pitch their ideas with the management team. That was one initiative. So we had several groups in several countries pitching for that their idea will go live. The first 3 winners received kind of money to bring their ideas into life. We had an initiative where we went into each and every change projects, brought someone from the Generation 1 into this project and asked them to be there as a guideline or as a actually philosopher of change, brought the philosophers of change inside this project, where just he or she was here to support the change, to bring in new perspectives, to bring in a new field. And that proved to be very effective because lots of people have their project and then there comes somebody new in from the organization and brings in new and fresh air. And we have lots of these little kind of interventions that change the way the people saw themselves. we then had it's not a Facebook, but it's more a Slack channel team approach for all the Generation 1 members, where they come together. They had interesting discussions. We had speakers just for them, and they slowly grew to a bigger group and a bigger group and a bigger group. So that in each and every country, that was our goal, we had at least 15 to 20 people from the Generation 1 that work together, that has fun together, and that just has a new attitude toward change. The results were slowly starting, but after a couple of, and I say now years, you can see the slide, that was started in 2011, and that's an overview of what the projects we did. And you can see all these little kind of pictures and stuff like that. It's all kind of initiatives. But in the end, it lasted 7 years, and I think it's still going. What kind of energy the Generation 1 brought inside of the organization. If you look at the car, you can probably see what kind of car this is. However, it's ongoing. Many change initiatives were finished more than before. That was cool. And what also happened is that probably not only because the generation is F, but when we look at how those people talk outside of the company, about the company, and they brought more people inside of the organization than others. So because their attitude towards the organization changed, then that's very rewarding for myself. I thought that was really nice. So, very large organization. Last example, small organizations, a medium-sized organization. Here we have culture shock. The medium-sized organization, they approached me, friends of mine, and they have around 60 to 70 people in Austria, again, long and successful history in the IT sector. What they're lacking now is that they do not have the spirit from the early times anymore. They know what they do, they know their customers, they know the market, and so it's not exciting anymore. It's business as usual. And what they see is they have little motivation in the management team, and therefore the motivation in the bigger team is also not very high. And I was approached with the goal, so Michael, we want to feel the spirit again from the beginning. It's like in the love relationship. Sometimes you need to feel the beginning again to know why you are here. You should know that all the time, but sometimes you need just a bit of a nudge. And that's exactly here. So the challenge was, being a small company, the budget was very limited, and coming from this kind of global initiative ideas, the number of employees to work with was also very limited. I think roughly 60 to 70, however. And I really love this project because the constraint on money proved to be, in fact, not a constraint, but like a strength. I need to put my head around and figure out on how could we, with very little money, start a movement that just brings the excitement and the spirit back. And yeah, therefore we started with kind of guerrilla marketing ideas. So we put kind of stickers, and the Sunday evening we went into the bureau, an office, and put stickers everywhere with kind of, when you can look very close, you can read what's on there, but it's not so close. And there were some signs and some statements, and people were saying, what's going on here? What's the topic? Curiosity. And then we had other kind of guerrilla marketings. We put up a small website, so people could look at the website and find a key on how to get more information on the website. So it's kind of a grassroots guerrilla ideas on curiosity, and all people were involved. And in fact, I thought that a company on itself it's not alone, it's not an island. So then we introduced customers. So customers came into the organization and brought some kind of information regarding this kind of challenge. And people then approached customers, oh, what's going on here? Why do we know that? And they said, oh, I was told from outside, and what do you do here? And so information, communication between customers and the employees was on another level, a different level. So they approached on a personal level and not on a kind of, this is a project. No, it's a different kind. And in fact, after a couple of weeks where the tension and the curiosity got even higher, I designed a book. You can see that it's a DIY book to approach the next level. I have a very cool designer. She designed the book, and the book is only exists once. And here's the managing director trying in the box where the book is, and he's receiving it. And in this book are ideas and topics that you could do to start something different, to do something different, to make people curious, to make people connect, to make people communicate. And what happens with the book is in 1 month in this part of the organization, and the people read it and need to figure out which kind of idea do we want to do this month for all of us. And then they do it. And it's always necessary to start with kind of curiosity stuff and start with something secretive. And then in the end, they have kind of a workshop, or they have a meeting where new things happen. So each month another organization, so let's say it's like 6 to 10 people receive the book and do something with it. So that's kind of a cultural shift with a book that is based on secretive stuff and based on a movement, because people are looking forward to receive the book and looking forward to do something for the others, to do something out of the ordinary, to do something different, and to change the way we interact with each other. So that was culture shock. So taking away a few points, so that I really like to focus on the 3 key points. You need to stand out. You need to do something different to start the movement. It's like on this movement makers, you need to have a group of people to do something different. Very important, find your first followers, and when you have followers, bring them in, involve them, embrace them, change the way you do the stuff. Because then it's not you who leads the movement, it's you and your followers and yourself. So it's a group of people, it's not one person, it's a group. And the group is news, a group is new stuff. And the third point is, the more tangible you do the stuff, like the book or kind of gadgets, the more visible it is, then the more kind of curiosity and the more eager people are to do something different. Make it tangible. And I'm not talking about more revenue. How would you make more revenue tangible? Make it something different. So it's stand out, find followers, embrace them, and make it tangible and visible. So that's from my side. I do hope you find some good stuff in that, and inspiration and ideas. And I'm very much looking forward to your questions. First of all, what if we from now on start movements in organizations and not doing the structured way? What would happen if the employees take over? What if from now on we unleash the creativity of the participants and not put our creativity on them? What could go wrong, and what would happen if we set something free? Yeah, thanks for your call, for your listening stuff, and happy to answer any questions. Yeah, looking forward. See you soon. Bye.
Hello again, and right now we got Mikael online. So thanks, Mikael, for your presentation. I do really appreciate the cases you share with us. The name of the name of the conference is AgileByExample. So just before we heard about some real cases, and we have some questions. Let's start with Magda's question. What was the time frame of these three examples you gave us?
The time frame of these three examples. So the first project was between 9 to 12 months. So it's a really long-term project. First is the design, and then the leadership task and movement task. So it took a couple of months. The second project was very, very focused, and we had only, let's say, 6 to 7, 8 weeks for that. And the last project was similar. It's like 8 to 10 weeks, something like that.
Do you have an example of long-term movements? I'm wondering how to secure the level of energy over the time in such movement.
That is a very good question. Usually, when you not do something, movements tend to send out, and it got slower and slower energy into that. What you have to do is to actually. The time frame of the second project was far bigger because we started in 2013 and ended still running. So what you have to do is to bring in, let's say, yearly kind of new aspects and new mottos or new focus areas. If you have a long-term project, if you have just a short project, then you state it. But long-term, what we did with this large international corporation is we introduced yearly kind of topic. So one topic was customer centricity, or the next topic was retention rate, or the next topic was community. So it's a yearly kind of big global topic that boils down to initiatives that drives this kind of movements. But it's a very good question. You need to have energy, and you need to do something different each and every year again, which I really like, because you need to think again and you need to do something.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. Question from Miriam. How did you recruit, define who rotation one to be? How did you ensure that were amount of people per rotation?
I didn't get the question. Would you please so kind and repeat it?
How did you recruit, define the generation one would be? How you recruit them?
Yeah.
How do you,
okay.
Maybe you can you can
so what I understood is, how did I recruit the people in the first example? How did you find the right people for the job?
Okay, let's answer this in that way.
I'm sorry, the connection is not. Okay, so what we did for the people in the first round, I searched for people who are the focus was people who are not leaders and very well connected within the organization and eager to do something new. So to find those people, you have to ask the leaders first. Usually you get the usual suspects that, yeah, I take him because he is always doing this kind of funny stuff. So, but we didn't try to find those people. So in the end, we came up with a kind of lottery that people would, we are doing something new. We need your energy. Please put your heads up, or please sign here and put your name here. And then we had like 200 of whatever names. And then we asked the leaders, is this one guy who is eager, or is this one guy who's not one of the usual suspects? So we had to turn a way around. And by introducing this kind of lottery, it also introduced this kind of new way of recruiting people for jobs. Usually it's like pinpoint, this is, I need you there because I need to know what's happening there. So, but we changed that.
Okay, thanks. Another question: how to find the right people to start the movement?
The right people to start the movement? Yeah. It's again this kind of well-connected people, eager to try something out, not being leaders. That's a very tricky question. A bit of gut feeling is definitely welcome, and you don't want to have this one who's always out of the comfort zone, who's just not part of the in group. So I'd say you would never know for sure before you start it. Try it out once. If it doesn't work, try it a different way. You just go with the flow. You can't say it before the beginning, this will not work because these people cannot start the movement. I once had a guy in my groups, and he was like 2 meters tall, a very thin guy, and he didn't actually come across as one of the coolest guys in the team, and very funny instead. And he did a little bit of stuttering. I'm not sure if I'm right to work. He just repeated the words very fast and very often. And I was wondering, is he really going to be energetic and energizing all the people? And when we turned him around and said, this is your job, this is what you do, he completely changed his kind of attitude and meaning. It's like, that's not the same guy. It's a different guy. And he was bringing people along, and they were thinking of how cool it could be. So don't judge a book by its cover again. Try it out. You will be surprised sometimes.
Okay, thanks. There was a question about the book Culture Shock. What's the author of that book? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's me. No, it's a Culture Shock. That was the book I wrote together with a colleague. That is just for once for this kind of organization to shock them into turning the culture around. So it's
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we wrote it.
Not
for sale.
There was a question about it on the room chat. Another question: do I need to start a movement for every change project?
That is a very good question indeed. I'm reluctant to say yes. I would actually say no. There are some projects that can easily and happily work in a structured and very focused way, because there is not enough kind of cultural ideas to start the movement, or the leadership team is against like this kind of big and not controllable topics. So if you happen to steer a change program in a very control-oriented organization, then I would advise against it. Or if you're really eager to do something new, then you go for it. But usually very control-oriented organizations want to have the idea of structure, the idea of a plan.
if you are in an organization for a long time and a period of time, and then there comes a change project along, and then say, let's do something different here, and you have the trust of the leaders, and then I would strongly advise go for the kind of movement, because this has the ability to do something entirely different. But on the safe side, go for structure.
Okay. Still, we got some time for questions. Please put them on the room chat. One more question. What about costs? Is a movement more expensive than secure change approach? How we can secure the cost for such approach?
Yeah. Again, let this control-oriented organizations, and you know what I'm talking about. They tend to like to know the costs beforehand. So if we start, let's say, a half-a-year change project, what will it cost me? Your time and whatever is there. But if you start the movement, you're not exactly clear on what the costs are, because it's your own time, and then you take your employees away from the job and they do something, and you're not entirely sure of what exactly they will need to start all the stuff. So my experience, for the question of cost, you have to be very reluctant to name a certain amount of money actually in both things, but more in the movement side. But I always try to go away from the cost factor, from the cost idea, and go to a discussion regarding what value can we bring to the organization, and how would we measure the value. And then we're not talking about costs anymore, then more about how valuable was the last session with the energy guys from this kind of department. And its cost is just a negligible item. It's not about costs anymore, about value.
So as far as I understand, it's mainly about investment, in fact.
Yeah, it's more investment in the time.
Okay. Thanks. Another question from Miriam. An examples of change management where management or leadership were not at all unified part of the initial movement?
Where the leadership was not part of the initial movement. Yeah, when you recall the long-term project for the international company, we started with one leadership group, but as you all know, in time the leadership teams, they change, and in this third year we had to introduce the kind of movement to a new leadership team, like managing director and his whole team. And they were facing kind of a few consultants coming up, say, this is what we did for the last couple of years. Can we do that again? And they were very reluctant to do that. But then we said, let's make a kind of survey around of the organization. How do the employees approach this kind of movement? How do they like it? Is it valuable for their work? Is it valuable to sell more, whatever they sell? And they agreed to do that. So it's not them deciding, but it's the employees. And we received a massive kind of support from the employees to build the next generation and to start it all over. So to get reluctant management teams to agree on you need to have numbers or figures, and to do that, ask the employees. Don't tell them it worked in this organization and it worked in that organization, and I'm very experienced. That may be true. However, if you have asked the employees, you get far more power to your movement than the other way around. And then the leadership team has a excuse to do that.
I would like to ask you what more you learn about this movement. You mentioned about one guy, tall guy, who changed their approach, as far as I understand. What else have you learned, maybe from some of your failures? I do believe, as we all have failures, what you learn from this?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to speak about my mistakes. One of the biggest kind of learnings was always have a plan B. I had a workshop with a big group of people. The focus was to change the way of working in this group, and I had one kind of workshop setting where it was all relatively free, like free roaming in this kind of workshop, and there is no little rules and stuff like that. And in the end, the people went into this workshop and they got lost. They had no clue what they had to do, and they was really a little bit anxious to do the right stuff. And so that taught me, have a plan B. So if people cannot follow your kind of very free ideas, then they need to have more control to that, more focus. That was one learning. So I have always plan B, but aiming for plan A. And the second learning for mistakes is you need to show the value of your project or of your program, whatever it is, every now and then to the management team, the leadership team. I usually, when I'm into a project, I'm talking to the employees and we're designing something, then we present something, and then I'm more attuned with the employees, and then I forget about it's the management team. I need to talk to them more often. And so I failed once miserably because I forgot about the management teams, and I needed to bring them very close to myself and to talk to them and to show them what values they're receiving. Yeah, another mistake. Yeah, one is to underestimate the creativity of the human beings. Don't think only because they're let's say bookkeepers or IT guys or whatever, your own hypothesis of how creative they are is totally wrong. People, if you find the right leverage, they are much more creative than you think, and they have so much fun in doing it. So, and don't take it away from them by designing something that you think would work for them.